Please, Liam, just leave us alone, the woman whispered, pulling the little boy behind her shaking body. The billionaire froze. 8 years ago, Ilara had vanished from his life with a note, a bank record, and a broken promise. He believed she sold their marriage for money. But now, on a freezing street at night, his ex-wife stood in a torn coat under a dying streetlight, and the child hiding behind her had his exact green eyes. "Who is that boy?" Liam asked, his voice rough. Ilara looked at him, terrified. Then she said the one thing that made his whole world collapse. "He's your son." Liam felt his heart turn to ice, because while he was living in mansions and boardrooms, the woman he once loved had been struggling in silence, and the child he never knew existed had been growing up without a father. But what Liam did not know that night was that the person who destroyed his family had been sitting in his own house all along. Liam Blackwood had everything a man could buy, and nothing that could give him peace. That night, the 36-year-old billionaire stood beneath chandeliers of crystal and gold, while the richest people in the city praised him like a king. Liam was tall, sharp, and commanding, a man whose name carried power in every room he entered. Men wanted to be him. Women wanted to stand beside him. Cameras followed him. Business partners smiled at him. But none of it touched the emptiness inside his chest. He shook hands. He nodded. He gave short answers. Then he left. The cold night air hit his face as he stepped into the back of his black luxury car. He loosened his tie and leaned his head against the seat. The driver pulled away from the glowing hotel, and for a moment, the city lights blurred behind the tinted window. Then his phone rang. Liam looked at the screen, and his jaw tightened. It was his mother, Patricia Blackwood. Patricia was a proud and controlling woman who valued family name, wealth, and status above everything else. To the world, she was elegant. To Liam, she was a voice he had obeyed for too long. He answered, "Mother." "Liam," Patricia said smoothly. "You left too early. Vanessa Hale was asking about you again." Liam closed his eyes. "I'm not interested." "You should be," Patricia replied. "She comes from a good family. She understands your world. It is time you stop living in the past." His voice turned cold. "I said I'm not interested." There was a pause. Then Patricia gave the same warning she always gave. "A man like you needs the right woman beside him, not another mistake." The line went silent, but her words stayed behind like poison. Liam lowered the phone slowly. Another mistake. He knew exactly who she meant. 8 years had passed, but the memory of Ilara still lived in the darkest corner of his heart. Suddenly, the car jerked hard. The driver cursed under his breath and guided the vehicle toward the side of the road. "Sir, I'm sorry. Something's wrong with the engine." Liam frowned and looked outside. They were no longer in the shining heart of the city. This part was darker, quieter, forgotten. Old buildings stood tired beneath broken signs. Wind rushed through the empty street like a warning. "I'll call for another car," the driver said. Liam stepped out while he waited. The cold was sharp, cruel, immediate. He shoved his hands into his coat and looked around with impatience. Then he saw her. Under a weak streetlight, near the doorway of a closed shop, stood a thin woman in a faded coat. She was holding 2 small grocery bags, and the wind moved through her clothes as if they were not enough to protect her. Her head was lowered. Her shoulders trembled. At first, Liam only stared. Then she lifted her face. The world stopped. "Ilara," he whispered. His breath caught. His body went still. This was Ilara Blackwood, the woman he had once loved with all his heart, the ex-wife he believed had betrayed him and vanished without looking back. But this was not the Ilara he remembered. This woman looked tired, worn, fragile. Before Liam could take another step, a small boy ran out from the shadows, and reached for her hand. He could not have been more than 7. He stayed close to her side and looked up at Liam with wide, watchful eyes. Liam froze again. Those eyes were green, his green, and in that cold, bitter night, the powerful billionaire who feared nothing felt his heart shake for the first time in years. In the heavy silence that followed, Liam could not move. He stood in the freezing street like a man struck by lightning, staring at Alara as if she were both a memory and a wound standing alive before him. 8 years, 8 long years, 8 years of anger, bitterness, and questions with no answers. And now she was here, not in his dreams, not in his memories, here, right in front of him. "Alara," he said again, this time louder, as if speaking her name might make sense of the impossible. Her fingers tightened around the little boy's hand. She looked at him with fear. Not guilt, not shame. Fear. That look unsettled Liam more than anything. The Alara he had once known had been gentle and warm, a young woman with a quiet strength that softened even his hardest days. She had entered his life when success had already made him cold, and somehow she had brought light into rooms he did not know were dark. She had laughed easily. She had spoken kindly. She had believed in love when he barely believed in peace. Now that same woman stood before him trembling. "Are you really Alara?" Liam asked, his voice low and strained. Her lips parted slightly. For a moment he thought she might say his name the way she used to, softly, tenderly. But she did not. She lowered her eyes and said, "Good evening, Mr. Blackwood." The words hit him harder than a slap. Mr. Blackwood, not Liam, not husband, not even the man she once loved. A stranger, that was what he was now. A stranger with a familiar face. Liam swallowed, but his throat felt tight. "Why are you calling me that?" Alara did not answer at once. The little boy shifted closer to her side, still holding her hand. He looked up at her, then at Liam, but said nothing. Liam's mind pulled backward with painful force. He remembered the first time he brought Alara home after they married. He had been proud then, proud and certain. Their wedding had not been grand, but it had been real. A simple church, a few flowers, vows spoken with tears in their eyes. Alara had looked at him as if he were more than his money, more than the Blackwood name. She had looked at him like a man worth loving. But Patricia had never looked at Alara that way. His mother had measured Alara from head to toe and seen only what she considered shame. A poor background, modest clothes, no powerful relatives, no social value. Patricia's smile had been polite in public, but cold in private. Her words had been sharper than knives. "She does not belong in this family, Liam," she had said more than once. "A woman like that will only drag you down." Then came the day everything broke. Liam still remembered the emptiness of their bedroom. The closet half cleared. The note left behind. The documents Patricia placed before him afterward. A bank record. A payment. Proof, she said, that Alara had taken money and left. Proof that his young wife had traded love for cash. He had believed it. God help him. He had believed it. Now he looked at Alara again, standing in the cold with a child at her side, and that old certainty began to crack. She did not look like a woman who had won anything. She looked like someone who had survived. Alara slowly stepped back. "We should go." Liam looked at the boy one more time. Those green eyes, that small hand wrapped around hers, that silent, watchful face. As Alara turned and began to walk away, Liam did not stop her. He only stood there, watching her disappear into the night with the child beside her, while something unfamiliar rose inside him. Not anger, not hatred, fear, and hope. The next few minutes felt longer than the past 8 years. Liam did not call out again. He did not rush after Alara. He only followed from a distance, keeping far enough behind that she would not notice him. The cold wind moved through the narrow streets, but he barely felt it now. His mind was louder than the night. At last, Ilara turned into an old apartment building at the edge of a dim block. Liam stopped across the street and stared. The building looked tired. Paint peeled from the walls. One window was covered with cardboard. The entrance light flickered like it was fighting to stay alive. Ilara lived here, he whispered to himself. A woman he had once brought into marble halls now climbed cracked stairs with 2 grocery bags in her hands. He waited, then moved closer to a side window where a torn curtain hung half open. From there he could see into a small room. The room was painfully plain. A narrow table, 2 chairs that did not match, a weak heater in the corner, a shelf with only a few items on it. Liam's chest tightened. Inside, Ilara set the groceries down and gave the little boy a tired smile. This was the first time Liam saw him clearly. The boy was about 7 years old, small for his age, with soft dark hair and bright green eyes that did not belong to chance. He stood close to Ilara with quiet trust. His name, Liam would soon learn, was Leo. "Wash your hands first," Ilara said gently. Leo obeyed at once. "Mama, is the man from outside bad?" Ilara paused for half a second. "No," she said softly. "He is not bad." "Then why did you look scared?" That question seemed to strike her harder than the cold ever could. "I was only surprised," she said. Leo sat at the table, while Ilara opened a small container of soup and a piece of bread. Liam watched her pour most of the soup into the child's bowl and leave only a little for herself. Leo frowned. "Mama, yours is too small." "I already ate at work," Ilara lied. Liam knew it was a lie. He could see it in the way she looked away. Leo accepted it, because children trust love even when love is tired. "Can I draw after dinner?" Ilara smiled faintly. "Yes, but only if you finish first." A few minutes later, Leo held up a paper proudly. Ilara leaned closer. "What is this?" she asked. Leo grinned. "A family picture." Liam's eyes narrowed. On the page were 3 stick figures. One was clearly Ilara. One was Leo. The third was taller than both of them. "Ilara," Liam whispered. The curtain shifted under his hand, and Ilara looked up sharply. Her eyes widened when she saw him outside. A moment later, she opened the door and stepped into the hallway, pulling it nearly shut behind her. "You followed me?" she asked, her voice low. Liam looked at her, then toward the door. "Who is he?" Ilara's face changed. Fear came first, then pain, then something tired and final. "You should leave. Not until you answer me." Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. "His name is Leo." Liam took one step closer. "Is he mine?" Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, as if the truth itself had weight. When she opened them again, she looked straight at him. "Yes," she said, "Leo is your son." The world did not stop this time. It broke. That same night, after Ilara's trembling confession left his world in ruins, Liam returned to the Blackwood mansion with a storm inside him. The grand house stood in perfect silence, glowing with wealth and pride. But to Liam, it felt colder than the street he had just left. He walked through the marble hall without removing his coat. His hands were clenched. His jaw was hard. For the first time in years, he was not coming home as a son. He was coming home as a man looking for answers. Patricia Blackwood was in the sitting room, calm as ever, a glass of tea in her hand. She looked up at him with practiced elegance. "You're late," she said. "Was the event that dull?" Liam did not sit. "Ilara is alive." The cup froze halfway to Patricia's lips. For 1 second, just 1 second, her face changed. Then the mask returned. "Ilara," she repeated. "After all these years?" "Don't do that," Liam said sharply. "I saw her tonight." Patricia slowly set the cup down. "And what exactly did she want?" Liam stared at her. You knew? She gave a dry laugh. Liam, please. That woman disappeared 8 years ago. If she has suddenly returned, then I think the reason is obvious. What reason? Money, Patricia said without shame. What else? Men like you attract women like her. Liam stepped closer. She was freezing in the street. Patricia lifted one shoulder. A performance, then? His voice dropped. And the boy? This time Patricia's eyes sharpened. What boy? The child with her. A pause. Then Patricia said, Let me guess. She is claiming he's yours. Liam said nothing. That silence was enough. Patricia stood. You cannot be serious. Answer me. I don't need to answer nonsense, she snapped. That woman trapped you once with tears and sweet words. Now she is back with a child? How convenient. Liam's face darkened. You sound very prepared. Patricia folded her arms. I sound like a mother protecting her son from another mistake. He heard it then. Not concern, not shock, control. The same cold control he had mistaken for wisdom all his life. She called me Mr. Blackwood, Liam said quietly. Patricia frowned. What? She looked at me like she was afraid. His eyes locked onto hers. Why would she be afraid of me, Mother? Patricia's voice turned icy. Because guilty people are always afraid. But something in the room had shifted. Liam could feel it. His mother was too quick, too polished, too certain. A woman truly surprised would ask questions. Patricia had only given accusations. He took a slow breath. Did you ever see her after she left? No. Did you ever speak to her? No. Did you pay her to leave? Patricia's expression hardened like stone. What's your tone? Liam let out a bitter laugh. That is not an answer. I owe you no explanation, she said. That girl is history. No, Liam said, his voice low and dangerous. History does not stand in the cold, with my eyes looking back at me. Patricia's composure finally cracked. Do not let that woman poison your mind. Liam stared at her for a long moment, then he turned and walked out. Behind him, Patricia called, Liam! But he did not stop. Half an hour later, inside his private study, Liam made a call. The man who answered was Marcus Reed, a former investigator and one of the few people Liam trusted. Marcus was quiet, precise, and loyal, a man who cared more about truth than comfort. Marcus, Liam said, staring into the dark window, I need you to reopen something buried 8 years ago. What am I looking for? Liam's voice tightened. My wife's disappearance. There was a brief silence. Then Marcus answered, I'll start tonight. After the call ended, Liam remained alone in the darkness. Sleep never came. He sat with the memory of Ilara's frightened eyes, the sound of her voice, and the image of a little boy standing at her side. For the first time in 8 years, Liam allowed himself to think the unthinkable. Maybe Ilara had never betrayed him at all. The following evening, after a sleepless night and a morning filled with questions that would not leave him alone, Liam returned to the old apartment building. He did not come with anger this time. He came with food, medicine, and a silence heavier than pride. When Ilara opened the door and saw him standing there, her face tightened at once. Why are you here? She asked. Liam lifted the paper bag in his hand. I brought dinner. We don't need anything from you. That may be true, he said quietly. But I still brought it. For a moment she looked ready to shut the door. Then Leo appeared behind her. The boy looked up. Mama, is it the man from the street? Liam's chest tightened again at the sound of that small voice. Ilara sighed softly. Yes. Leo peered around her arm. Why does he keep coming? Before Ilara could answer, Liam said, Because I wanted to see if you were both all right. Leo studied him with innocent seriousness. We are trying. Those 3 words hit Liam harder than any accusation could have. Ilara stepped aside at last. Come in, but don't stay long. Liam entered slowly. In daylight, the place looked even worse. The weak heater in the corner rattled more than it warmed. A stack of unpaid bills sat beneath a chipped cup on the table. Leo's coat, hanging by the door, had been stitched by hand at the elbow. Ilara herself looked thinner than he had first realized. Her face was pale with exhaustion, and there were shadows beneath her eyes that no woman should have carried alone. Liam set the bag down. You live like this every day? Ilara gave a tired smile that held no joy. Every day that God gives. He looked at her. Why didn't you ask for help? She laughed once, but there was no humor in it. From who, Liam? The sound of his name on her lips made him go still. You thought I sold our marriage, she said, and your mother made sure I understood what would happen if I came near you. Liam's jaw tightened. What did she do? Ilara hesitated. Then she glanced toward Leo, who had already opened the paper bag, and smiled at the sight of warm bread. She threatened me, Ilara said more softly. She said if I tried to contact you, she would make sure I lost everything. She said no one would believe me. She said a poor woman always loses against a rich family. Liam looked around the room again. So you worked through all this? I cleaned offices at night. I washed dishes. I worked in a laundry. I took whatever I could. She folded her arms, as if holding herself together. Not because I was brave, because Leo needed to eat. Liam glanced at the child. Has he been sick? Ilara's eyes lowered. There were times he needed medicine, and I had to wait until payday. There were winters when I made him wear 2 sweaters indoors because the heat was barely working. There were birthdays I could only afford a pencil and a notebook. Her voice shook, but she steadied it. He never complained. Leo pulled a small toy car from under the chair. One wheel hung loose. It's broken again, he said. Liam crouched at once. Can I see? Leo looked at Ilara first. She gave a small nod. Liam took the toy carefully, adjusted the bent axle, and pressed the wheel back into place. Try now. Leo rolled it across the floor. The little car moved straight. A small smile spread across his face. You fixed it. Liam almost smiled too. Looks like I did. Leo sat down on the rug and pushed the toy again. After a second, he looked up. Do you want to play too? Liam glanced at Ilara, then lowered himself to the floor across from the boy. All right. For a few quiet minutes the room changed, not completely, not magically, but enough. Then Ilara spoke. Don't mistake this for safety, she said. Liam looked up. Her eyes met his, steady and wounded. Patricia Blackwood is dangerous. My silence was never betrayal, Liam. She pressed a hand against her chest. It was survival. And sitting on that worn floor, with a child between them and truth pressing in from every side, Liam felt the full shame of the life she had suffered alone. Later that same night, after hearing Ilara say her silence had been survival, Liam stopped pretending this was only pain. Now it was war with the truth. He was in his private study when his phone rang. Marcus, Liam answered at once. On the other end was Marcus Reed, the private investigator Liam trusted when a matter was too sensitive for anyone else. Marcus was a careful, disciplined man in his 40s, known for speaking only when he had something solid to say. I found the old driver, Marcus said. His name is Harold Benton. He's retired now, lives alone outside the city. Liam rose from his chair. Did he talk? Yes, and you need to hear this yourself. An hour later, Liam sat across from an aging man with shaking hands in a small kitchen that smelled of cold coffee and regret. Harold looked at the table. not at Liam. I never wanted trouble, sir. Liam's voice was hard. Then tell the truth. Harold swallowed. Your mother called me 8 years ago. She told me to drive Mrs. Ilara out of town and make it clear she was not welcome back. Liam went still. Did she threaten Ilara? Harold nodded slowly. Not with her own mouth at first, but she had men nearby. Just to scare her, she said. She told Mrs. Ilara that if she contacted you, things would get worse. Liam's hands tightened. And you obeyed. Harold's eyes filled with shame. I did. I have asked God to forgive me many times. Liam stood so quickly that the chair scraped the floor. Marcus stepped in. There's more. The next morning, they met a retired bank employee named Nora Bell, a nervous woman who kept glancing toward the door, as if old secrets could still walk in. She pushed a photocopy across the table. This is the transfer your mother used as proof. Liam stared at it. It was the same record Patricia had shown him 8 years ago. Nora pointed to a second page. But this part was hidden. The money did not stay in Ilara's account. It was redirected through a holding account and returned to Patricia Blackwood's private fund. Liam looked up sharply. You're saying my mother staged the payment? Yes, Nora said quietly. I was told to stay silent. Liam let out a broken breath. My God. By afternoon, Marcus returned with one final envelope. I found these in a storage file linked to your mother's former assistant, he said. Liam took the bundle with unsteady hands. Inside were letters, several of them, all addressed to him in Ilara's handwriting. His chest tightened before he even opened the first one. Liam, please believe me. I did not leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I was afraid. He sat down hard. Another letter. I am carrying your child. I do not know what to do. I prayed you would come, but your mother says you never want to see me again. And another. If this letter reaches you, please find us. Please do not let our baby grow up thinking his father did not care. Liam covered his mouth. His shoulders shook. For years he had believed himself abandoned. For years he had fed his anger and called it strength, but Ilara had been crying out for him the whole time. Sir, Marcus said softly, I'm sorry. Liam's voice cracked. She wrote to me, she begged me, and I never came. That evening, for the first time since boyhood, Liam entered a church alone. It was quiet, no cameras, no board members, no wealth, just wooden pews, stained glass, and silence deep enough to expose a man to himself. He sat in the back and lowered his head. God, he whispered, his voice rough with grief. I was blind. I was proud. I failed her. I failed my son. His eyes closed tightly. If there is still mercy for a man like me, give me wisdom, give me courage, give me one chance to make this right. And in that silence, Liam Blackwood finally understood the cruelest truth of all. Ilara had not walked away from him. She had been stolen from him. The following morning, after the truth in Ilara's letters broke the last wall around his heart, Liam did not waste another hour. He arrived at Ilara's apartment just after sunrise. When Ilara opened the door, she looked tired and cautious. Why are you here so early? Liam held her gaze. Because I have already lost too much time. She said nothing. I made an appointment at a private clinic, he continued, for you and Leo, just a checkup, nothing more. Ilara's first answer came quickly. No, please. I said no, Liam. Leo looked up from the small table where he was drawing. What is a checkup? Liam softened his voice. A doctor just makes sure you're strong and healthy. Leo nodded, as if that sounded reasonable. Will it hurt? No, Liam said. Not if I can help it. Ilara let out a quiet breath. I don't want charity. Liam stepped closer, but kept his voice gentle. Then don't call it charity. Call it a father trying to do one thing right. That silence again, heavy, painful. At last, Ilara looked toward Leo, then back at Liam. "One visit," she said. "That is all." An hour later, they entered a private medical clinic far from the part of the city where Ilara had been struggling alone. Leo stayed close to Ilara at first, holding her hand and looking around with curious, careful eyes. The doctor who received them was Dr. Naomi Carter, a calm, middle-aged physician with kind eyes and a steady voice that seemed to lower the tension in the room. She greeted Leo first. "And who is this young man?" she asked with a smile. Leo straightened a little. "I'm Leo." "Well, Leo," Dr. Carter said warmly, "you look like someone who asks smart questions." Leo glanced at Liam, then back at her. "Sometimes." That small moment eased the room. The examinations were simple and quiet. Leo answered politely. Ilara tried to insist she was fine. Liam stood nearby, saying little, but every word from the doctor landed heavily inside him. When Dr. Carter finished, she asked to speak with Liam and Ilara privately, while a nurse gave Leo juice and coloring sheets in the next room. Dr. Carter folded her hands. "Leo is a sweet child. He needs regular meals, rest, vitamins, and stability. Nothing here is beyond help." Liam nodded once. "And Ilara?" The doctor's expression softened. "She is exhausted, not just physically. She has been carrying too much for too long. Lack of rest, poor nutrition, constant stress." She looked directly at Liam. "She does not need pity. She needs relief." Ilara lowered her eyes, embarrassed. But Liam felt something deeper than embarrassment. Shame. Not the shallow kind. Not the kind a man brushes away. This was the kind that sits in the bones. After they left the clinic, Ilara stopped outside the building. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But we can go home now." Liam shook his head. "No." Her face tightened. "Liam, I am not taking you to my mansion," he said quickly. "I know you would never agree to that, and I understand why." She studied him carefully. "I found a place," he continued, "a small house, warm, safe, private. No one connected to my mother knows about it." Ilara stared at him. "You already arranged that?" "Yes." "You assume too much." "No," Liam said. "I have assumed too little for 8 years." That answer silenced her. By evening, they stood inside the small house Liam had prepared. It was not grand, but it was peaceful. The rooms were clean. The heat worked. The kitchen was stocked. There were books on a shelf, warm blankets folded on a chair, and soft light filling corners that had no memory of fear. Leo turned in a slow circle. "Mama," he whispered, "it's warm." Ilara pressed her lips together. She did not speak for a moment. Liam crouched beside a low shelf and pulled out a book. "Do you like stories?" Leo nodded. "Yes." "Then this shelf is yours too." Later that night, after a hot meal and more wonder on Leo's face than Liam could bear, the boy sat on the edge of the bed with a book in his lap. "Will you read it?" Leo asked. Liam looked at him. "Me?" Leo nodded. "Your voice sounds strong." Liam took the book and sat beside him. He read slowly at first, then more easily. Leo listened with complete attention, his small body relaxing little by little. When the story ended, the room grew quiet. Leo looked up at him, eyes wide and thoughtful. "Can I ask something?" Liam's throat tightened. "Anything." Leo held the blanket in both hands. "Are you really my daddy?" The question was so soft, so innocent that it nearly undid him. Liam looked at Ilara. She stood in the doorway, still and silent, tears shining in her eyes. Then he looked back at the child. "Yes," Liam said, his own voice breaking. "Yes, Leo, I am." and for the first time since that freezing night, the truth did not feel like a wound alone. It also felt like a beginning. Over the next few days, after Leo asked if Liam was really his father, and Liam finally answered with the truth, something began to change. Liam started coming by every evening. Sometimes he brought books, sometimes fruit, sometimes he brought nothing at all except his time. And that mattered more than everything else. He would sit at the small table with Leo, help him sound out words, and listen when Elara spoke instead of trying to control the room. It was new, it was quiet, it was fragile, and Patricia Blackwood could feel herself losing her grip. The following afternoon, Patricia sat in a private lounge at the Blackwood Foundation, her face calm, but her eyes sharp with anger. Across from her sat Vanessa Hale, a polished socialite from one of the wealthiest families in the city. Vanessa was beautiful, confident, and ambitious, the kind of woman who entered every room as if she already owned it. For years, she had made it clear that she wanted Liam. Patricia lifted her teacup. "He has changed," Vanessa frowned. "Because of her?" "Yes." "The poor ex-wife?" Patricia's jaw tightened. "Do not underestimate her." Vanessa leaned back. "Then tell me what you want me to do." Patricia gave a cold, careful smile. "Nothing dramatic. Just remind people who she is supposed to be." By the next morning, whispers had already begun. At a cafe where Elara worked part-time, two women in expensive coats spoke just loudly enough to be heard. "So that is her?" "Yes, the woman who came back after all these years." "How convenient," one of them said. "A billionaire gets richer, and suddenly the ex-wife returns with a child." Elara's hands stilled on the tray she was carrying. She did not answer them. She did not lower herself to their cruelty. She simply set the cups down and walked away with what dignity she had left. But later, in the back room, one of the younger waitresses approached her. "I'm sorry," the girl said softly. "People are talking." Elara gave a tired nod. People always talk. That evening, when Liam arrived at the house, he noticed at once that Elara was quieter than usual. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing." "Elara." She turned to face him. "Do not do that." "Do what?" "Look at me like you can pull the truth out by force." Liam's voice lowered. "Then tell me willingly." She hesitated. "The rumors started." His expression hardened. "What rumors?" "That I came back for your money, that I planned this, that Leo is part of some game." She laughed once, bitterly. The city moves fast when rich people decide a poor woman is convenient to discuss. Liam's hands curled at his sides. "Who started it?" Elara looked away. "Does it matter?" "Yes," he said, "it does." Before she could answer, Leo came running from the next room with a book in his hand. "Look," he said brightly, "I found the page with the big ship." Then he noticed the silence between them. His smile faded just a little. "At school," he said carefully, "a boy asked if rich people talk louder than everybody else." Liam crouched to his level. "And what did you say?" Leo thought for a moment. "I said my mama says loud people are not always right." That nearly made Liam smile. "Your mama is a wise woman," he said. Leo nodded with satisfaction and returned to his book. But Liam rose with a darker look in his eyes. The next day, he walked into a charity planning luncheon where Vanessa Hale was seated among several women from the city's elite circles. Their conversation stopped when they saw him. Vanessa recovered first, smiling too smoothly. "Liam, what a surprise." Liam did not smile back. "I heard you've been speaking about Elara." Vanessa lifted a brow. "People speak, Liam. That is what society does." He stepped closer. "Then let society hear this. Elara Blackwood is not a rumor. She is the mother of my son, and she is under my protection. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. The table went silent. Vanessa's face changed. You would humiliate me for her? Liam's voice was ice. No, you humiliated yourself. By the time he left, the message had already begun to spread faster than the gossip itself. That night, Ilara stood by the kitchen counter while Liam placed groceries away. You defended me, she said quietly. Yes. Why? He looked at her as if the answer should have been obvious. Because I should have done it years ago. Ilara's eyes softened, but not completely. Too much had happened for one brave moment to heal it all. I see the change in you, Liam, she said. I do. Then believe it. She held his gaze for a long moment. I want to, she whispered, but wanting to trust you is not the same as knowing I can. And that was the truth Liam had to face now. Love was not returning in one grand moment. It was returning one difficult step at a time. A few days after Liam defended Ilara in public and made his position clear, Patricia made a choice that crossed the last line left between sin and wickedness. She sat in her silent mansion, with anger burning behind her calm face. Pride had always been her shield. Control had always been her weapon, and now both were slipping from her hands. When Vanessa called that morning, Patricia's voice was colder than ever. He stood against me, she said. Vanessa answered carefully. Then maybe this is over. Patricia's mouth tightened. No, Ilara only stayed because she feels safe. Remove that safety, and she will run again. Vanessa hesitated. What exactly are you planning? Fear, Patricia said. Only fear. That afternoon, Ilara stepped out of the small house to buy bread from a shop 2 streets away. Liam had sent a driver earlier with groceries, but she wanted to keep one piece of ordinary life for herself. Leo remained in the front sitting room with a puzzle book, while Liam, who had stopped by after work, took a call in the kitchen. I'll be back in 10 minutes, Ilara told them. Leo looked up. Can I finish the ship puzzle before you come back? Yes, she said with a smile, and no peeking at the answers. Liam glanced toward them from the kitchen doorway. I'm here. Ilara nodded once and stepped outside. 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the front gate. Leo looked up. A man in a dark jacket stood beyond the bars, holding a small paper bag. His smile was too quick. Your mother asked me to bring this, he said. She forgot it at the shop. Leo did not move closer. My mama says I should not open the gate. The man's smile tightened. Just come look. There's a toy inside. Before Leo could answer, a second man appeared at the corner of the fence, glancing up and down the street. Something about the moment felt wrong, even to a child. Inside the house, Liam ended his call when he heard the gate rattle. He stepped into the front room. Leo? No answer. Liam moved faster, reached the window, and saw the small front door standing open. His blood ran cold. Outside, at the same moment, Ilara turned the corner with bread in her hand and saw Liam already in the yard. Liam? He looked at her with a face she had never seen before. Where is Leo? The bread fell from her hands. For one terrible second, neither of them breathed. Then Liam saw movement down the side lane. One of the men was hurrying toward a parked car, but Leo was not in his arms. The child stood a few feet away, near the open back door, confused, clutching his puzzle book to his chest. Leo! Ilara shouted. The boy turned at once. Liam ran. The first man tried to block him. It lasted only a second. Liam shoved him aside with a force that sent him stumbling into the fence. Marcus Reed's car screeched to a stop at the corner just then. He had arrived to update Liam and walked straight into chaos. Marcus jumped out. I'll get the other one! Within moments, the second man bolted. Marcus chased him down the lane, while Liam reached Leo and dropped to his knees in front of him. Are you hurt? Liam asked, his voice rough. Leo shook his head quickly. He said Mama sent him. I didn't believe him. Then he opened the gate. Ilara rushed forward and pulled Leo into her arms, holding him so tightly Liam had to look away for a second. I'm here, she whispered. I'm here. Leo leaned back just enough to look at Liam. His small face was unsettled, but he was safe. Completely safe. Marcus returned a minute later, breathing hard. One got away. I got the license plate. Liam rose slowly. His eyes were dark with a fury Ilara had never seen so naked. This was her, he said. Ilara already knew who he meant. Later, after the police had come and gone, after every door and window had been checked twice, the house fell quiet again. Leo sat beside Liam on the couch, still holding the puzzle book. Then, without warning, he leaned against Liam and wrapped both arms around him. Liam froze. Dad, Leo said softly, the word coming for the first time not from question, but from trust. You came fast. Liam closed his eyes. One hand moved carefully to the boy's back. I'll always come fast, he said. Across the room, Ilara broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. I'm tired, Liam, she whispered through tears. I'm so tired of being afraid. He stood and crossed the room. When he spoke, his voice was no longer that of a billionaire. It was the voice of a man stripped down to truth. I know, he said, and I am sorry. Not with money, not with promises I cannot prove. I am sorry with everything in me. He held her gaze. From this day forward, I will stand. I will protect, and I will stay. And for the first time, Ilara believed that he meant it. The following morning, after Leo clung to Liam and called him Dad for the first time, Liam stopped thinking like a wounded son and started acting like a father. By 8 o'clock, Marcus Reed was in Liam's study with a thick file spread across the desk. The private investigator's face was grave. I barely slept, Marcus said. But I used the plate number. The car was rented under a false name. The payment trail leads through a shell account. Liam looked up. Patricia? Marcus slid another document forward. Not directly, but the shell company connects to one of her old assistants, same woman who handled the storage file where Ilara's letters were hidden. Liam stared at the evidence for a long moment. Witness statements, the bank records, Harold's confession, the intercepted letters, the rental trail from the previous day. It was all there now, not suspicion, not pain, truth. She really did all of it, Liam said quietly. Marcus did not answer at once. Yes, Liam leaned back in his chair, but there was no comfort in it. My own mother. Marcus spoke carefully. What are you going to do? Liam's eyes hardened. Everything I should have done years ago. Before noon, Liam met with the family attorney. By the end of the meeting, Patricia Blackwood was removed from every board, every account, every foundation office, and every company privilege tied to Liam's name. Security access was revoked. Private staff were reassigned. Legal instructions were filed to ensure Patricia could not come near Ilara, Leo, or the house where they now lived in peace. When the papers were complete, Liam signed the last page without hesitation. That afternoon, he drove to the mansion where he had been raised. Patricia was waiting in the sitting room, as if she had already sensed the ground shifting beneath her feet. You look tired, she said, as he entered. Liam placed the file on the table between them. Read it. She glanced down at the papers but did not touch them. What is this? The truth. Her expression cooled. I am not in the mood for theatrics. This is not theatre, Liam said. This is the cost of what you did. Patricia finally opened the file. The first few pages were enough to change her face. She looked up sharply. Where did you get this? From people you thought would stay silent forever. Her jaw tightened. Liam. No. His voice cut through the room like steel. You do not speak over me today. Patricia rose slowly. You would choose that woman over your own mother? Liam stepped closer. I am choosing truth over lies. I am choosing my son over your pride. I am choosing the family you tore apart. For the first time, Patricia had no polished answer ready. Liam continued, each word heavy and clear. You are removed from everything. The company, the foundation, my home, my life, until I say otherwise. And if you go near Ilara or Leo again, I will not protect you from the law. Her face lost color. You would throw me away for her? Tears did not come to Liam's eyes, not then. His pain had gone deeper than tears. You threw yourself away, he said. He turned and walked out, leaving Patricia alone with the evidence of her own ruin. By evening, the mansion felt like a tomb. For the first time in her life, Patricia Blackwood had no audience, no influence, and no power left to hide behind. Silence followed her from room to room. The weight of memory sat in every chair. Ilara's frightened face, Liam's cold voice, the stolen years, the child without a father. At last, near sunset, Patricia left the house alone and drove to a small church on the edge of the city. Inside, the sanctuary was simple. Wooden pews, soft light, quiet air. At the front stood Pastor Samuel, a gray-haired minister known in the neighborhood for his gentle wisdom and unshaken faith. He was locking a side door when he noticed her. Ma'am, he said kindly, are you all right? Patricia looked at him, and the words she had buried for 8 years broke loose. No, she whispered. I am not. An hour later, she sat in the front pew with trembling hands, confessing everything. The lies, the threats, the money, the letters, the fear she planted in a young pregnant woman, the son she hardened with deceit. Pastor Samuel listened without interruption. When she finished, he bowed his head and prayed over her with quiet strength. Then he said, Sorrow is the beginning, not the proof. Patricia looked up through tears. If your repentance is real, he continued, you must stop hiding behind regret. Tell the truth. Ask forgiveness. Change while you still have time. And sitting there in the silence of that little church, Patricia Blackwood finally came face to face with the woman she had become. That same night, after Pastor Samuel told her that sorrow was not enough, Patricia Blackwood returned to her mansion and faced a silence. No servant, no chandelier, and no fortune could soften. For years that house had obeyed her. Doors opened when she approached. People lowered their voices when she entered. Her word had ruled the rooms, but not that night. That night, every step she took sounded like judgment. She entered her private study, shut the door, and stood in the dark for a long moment before turning on the lamp. Its warm light fell over polished wood, expensive curtains, framed family portraits, and a silver pen set Liam had once bought for her on her birthday. Patricia stared at it. Then she sat down. A sheet of paper lay before her. Her hand hovered above it, but she did not write at once. Pride still fought inside her. Pride always fought. Pride had been the voice that told her she was right. Pride had been the voice that told her Ilara was beneath them. Pride had been the voice that destroyed everything. At last, Patricia picked up the pen. Liam, she whispered, as if testing whether she still had the right to say her son's name. Then she began. Her writing was slow at first, then faster, then unsteady. She wrote about the day she first saw Ilara and judged her without mercy. She wrote about the hatred she had called wisdom. She wrote about the false bank transfer, the driver she paid, the threats she made, and the letters she intercepted. She wrote the truth she had denied for 8 years. At one point, she stopped and covered her mouth. My God, she whispered into the empty room. What have I done? but the page waited, and she forced herself to continue. She wrote to Liam first. "My son, I turned your pain into poison because I wanted control more than I wanted your happiness." Then she wrote to Ilara, "You never betrayed this family. I did. I wounded you, humiliated you, and tore you away from the man who loved you. I stole years that were not mine to take." By the time she reached Leo's name, tears had begun to fall freely. "Tell the child that his grandmother sinned against him before he could even speak. Tell him I am sorry that I stole his father from him." Near midnight, Patricia placed the pen down and read the letter from beginning to end. No lies remained, no excuses remained, only truth. A little later, there was a soft knock at the door. It was the housekeeper, an older woman named Mrs. Bell, who had served the family for many years. "Madam," she said gently, "shall I bring you tea?" Patricia looked up. Her face was pale, changed somehow. "No," she said quietly. "Just an envelope." Mrs. Bell returned with one. Patricia folded the letter with great care and slipped it inside. On the front, she wrote two names, Liam and Ilara. Mrs. Bell hesitated. "Would you like me to have it delivered in the morning?" Patricia looked at the envelope for a long time. Then she shook her head. "No," she said. "I need to take it myself." The next morning, the sky was grey and still. Patricia dressed simply, without the polished pride she usually wore like armor. No jewels, no grand perfume, no performance. Before leaving, she paused in the front hall beneath a family portrait taken years ago, when Liam was younger and still looked at the world with less steel in his eyes. She touched the frame lightly. "I was your mother," she whispered. "I should have protected your joy." Then she walked out. The drive was not long, but Patricia never reached the house. The call came just before noon. Liam was with Ilara in the kitchen, while Leo sat at the table, drawing a ship with bright blue windows. His phone rang, and when he answered, his face changed little by little until all color left it. Ilara stood. "Liam?" He lowered the phone slowly. "What happened?" she asked. His voice was quiet, almost hollow. "There was an accident." Ilara's hand moved to her mouth. "Is she?" She could not finish. Liam nodded once. For a moment the room held no sound. Then there was a knock at the door. When Liam opened it, Pastor Samuel stood there holding a sealed envelope in both hands. His eyes were full of sorrow. "She was on her way here," the pastor said softly. "She wanted you to have this." Liam looked down at the envelope. His name was there. Ilara's too. And in that painful stillness, with the child still safe at the table behind them, and the truth finally in reach, Liam understood something that made his chest ache. His mother had waited too long to choose humility, but before the end, she had chosen it. By the end of that long, painful week, the letter Patricia carried too late had already changed the house. Not because it erased the past, it did not. Not because it healed every wound, it could not. But because the last of the lies was gone. That evening, after Pastor Samuel placed the envelope into Liam's hands, no one spoke for a moment. Even little Leo seemed to sense that something important had entered the room. He stayed at the table with his drawing book, quiet and calm, coloring the windows of his ship, while the adults stood in the weight of the moment. Liam looked at Ilara. "Should we read it now?" Ilara's fingers trembled slightly, but she nodded. "Yes." They sat together on the couch. Pastor Samuel remained nearby, silent, giving them the kind of presence that asked for nothing and offered comfort anyway. Liam opened the envelope carefully. Patricia's handwriting was unmistakable. He began to read aloud, but his voice nearly failed on the first page. "My son," he read, then stopped. Ilara gently touched his arm. "Take your time." Liam swallowed and continued. The letter was everything Patricia had refused to say when pride still ruled her. She confessed the staged payment. She confessed the threats. She confessed the letters she hid. She confessed that Elara had never betrayed her marriage, and that Leo had lost years with his father because of her cruelty. At one point, Liam's voice broke completely. Elara reached for the letter. "Let me." She read the next part softly. "I judged you, Elara, before I ever knew your heart. I called your goodness weakness because I was blind. I ask your forgiveness, though I know I do not deserve it." Elara's eyes filled, but she kept going. Then came the part about Leo. Tell the boy that his grandmother was wrong. Tell him none of this was his fault. Tell him I prayed God would still be kind to the family I harmed. When the letter ended, the room fell silent again. Liam lowered his head. Elara folded the pages carefully and held them in both hands. Pastor Samuel waited a moment before speaking. "The truth has come home," he said gently. Liam let out a slow breath. "Too late." Pastor Samuel looked at him with steady kindness. "Late truth still matters, Liam." Elara stared at the letter in her lap. "She knew," she whispered. "All these years, she knew." "Yes," Liam said. His voice was rough with grief. "And still, she wrote this before the end." Leo looked up from his drawing. "Mama?" Elara quickly wiped her eyes and turned to him. "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you sad?" She gave him a small, tender smile. "A little." Leo climbed down from the chair and walked over with his paper. "Then you can keep my ship. It is going to a happy place." That innocent offering nearly undid both of them. Elara took the drawing and kissed the top of his head. "Thank you, my love." 2 days later, by the end of the week, they stood at Patricia Blackwood's burial. The sky was pale, the wind was soft. It was not a grand gathering, only a quiet service with a few family associates, household staff, and the pastor who now stood by the grave with a Bible in his hands. Liam stood still in a black coat, his face unreadable at first glance, but Elara, standing beside him, knew better. He was not only burying his mother, he was burying the lie she had built around his life. Pastor Samuel spoke simply. "We are here today not to deny wrong, and not to praise what wounded others. We are here to remember that pride destroys, truth humbles, and mercy remains possible while there is breath. Let every heart leave this place choosing what is right before it is too late." Liam closed his eyes briefly. After the prayer, they remained for a final quiet moment. Elara slipped her hand into his. He held it tightly. "I don't know what to feel," Liam admitted. "You do not have to know all of it today," Elara said softly. "Some grief takes time. Some peace takes time too." Leo stood between them, holding both their hands, calm and steady in the way only a child can be when love surrounds him. At last, they turned away from the grave together, not as broken strangers, not as a family fully healed, but as three people walking side by side into a future no longer ruled by lies. And for the first time in many years, Liam Blackwood did not walk toward power. He walked toward home. This story teaches us that pride destroys faster than poverty ever could. Patricia had wealth, power, and influence, yet her pride blinded her. She judged Elara by status instead of character, and that single decision shattered 3 lives. The first lesson is simple. Never allow pride to control your love. Second, silence can be misunderstood. Liam believed what he saw without asking deeper questions. One conversation could have saved 8 years of pain. Communication matters. Assumptions destroy families. Third, forgiveness does not erase consequences, but it frees the heart. Patricia's repentance came late, but truth still mattered. Her confession did not undo the damage. but it stopped the lie from living on. Sometimes justice is not public humiliation. Sometimes it is quiet truth. Fourth, love must be protected. Liam learned that being powerful means nothing if you fail to defend your family. And finally, children deserve peace. Leo was innocent in a battle created by adults. Our decisions shape the world children grow up in. Let this story remind us. Choose humility early. Choose truth quickly. Choose love daily. As a creator, I believe this story reflects something very real. Many families are broken not because love was absent, but because pride stood in the way. Patricia was not a monster at the beginning. She was a mother who allowed control to become more important than compassion. Liam was not evil. He was wounded and too quick to believe what confirmed his pain. Alara was not weak. She survived quietly with strength. But here is something I want to ask you. Who do you think carried the greatest fault? Was it Patricia for her pride? Was it Liam for believing without questioning? Was it Alara for staying silent too long? Or do you think the deeper issue began with how Liam was raised? And have you ever seen something like this in real life? Maybe not with billions of dollars, but with pride, silence, and family misunderstanding. What happened? How did it end? Stories like this are dramatic, but the emotions are real. If you have faced heartbreak, betrayal, or family division, remember, truth may be delayed, but it still matters. This is Mr. Hope, and I will see you in the next video.